All right, so we are rolling. Greetings, greetings, greetings. Hello, Pisces. This is Tarot Lumination with your June 2018 generic report. You know, kind of a useful thing, all around broad spectrum. Cards are already well shuffled in advance. And you probably, if you've been here before, you know the routine. No jumpers, no flyers, no oracles, no reversals. We're just using the good old basics, okay? We're going to use what I think of as the Journey of the Heart spread, kind of custom for Tarot Illumination here, because the whole thing about Tarot Illumination is all about love and healing and bringing the healing power of love down here to earth. Before we get into it, let me just show you a few notes for the month. This is just generic stuff. These were my original notes here, but I'm trying to clarify them a little bit so it's a little bit easier to understand. These are just to mark some calendar moments for you guys. I know some of you like to have a little bit of astrology sprinkled in for spice and like a side dish, okay? June 2018, coming in early, we have these big fat water trines between Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio. What does that mean? It's basically very nutritious, very succulent for all of us, wherever these points lie in your chart. Doesn't matter what sign you are. It's just out there. Think of this, all of this as weather. Forget what your sign is. I'm just pointing out the generic information for you. Also, it's followed on very quickly by the Capricorn-Cancer opposition, forming something called a grand kite. Again, very, very supportive, and we can learn so much from this because we have this huge opposition going down the middle. Awareness in the context of significant relationship. Things start to get pretty choppy, though, early on. June 6th, we've got these heavy, strong squares. Squares are conflicted energies between the Gemini and Pisces energy. It is that season, Gemini sun and those planets, hard squaring onto the Pisces Neptune energy, okay? So just allow for that. And then it starts to get really, really choppy. June 10th, 14th, 15th, and 19th, 23rd, 29th, 30th. All of these dates are dates that I picked out from the information that struck me as being challenging, and they need to be known. We have an ongoing Aquarius, Taurus, Leo T-square. It's very challenging. Doesn't matter, again, who you are. If you're an Aquarius or a Leo or a Taurus or a Scorpio, you might feel this more than others. It puts a lot of pressure on certain parts of your life. Later we go into a Capricorn-Cancer opposition on top of this. Rolling through the month, Cancer, Aries, Capricorn. This is a quirky one because it's on Chiron. So it might be very troublesome or very, very sensitive for us as this big fat T-square comes into play. It won't be around too long, but it is there and it is significant. Later on, we still have the Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio, big fat water trines, which is nice, but you know, we've still got this Aquarius Leo thing going on. Okay, and sometimes with Taurus, sometimes with Scorpio. Either way, these are very tough, challenging energies that are putting pressure on all of us. And but we have a little sprinkled another grand kite in here. It's a very, very, very active month. There's a lot of really, really hard angles going on. Notice the red ink everywhere. And there's some very delicious supportive angles going on. Okay, so I just wanted to let you know. We're not going to go into it. Just mark these dates, okay, as trigger points. You might want to keep a track of that, okay? So I hope this helps a little bit. I don't know. It's kind of up to you what you guys make of it, really. Just think of it as surfing. Very gorgeous, gorgeous conditions in some ways, but also very treacherous in other ways. So you have to be very skilled, be on your full alert this month as you're going through the month. All right, Pisces? Same for you, same for everybody. I'll probably tell the same story on every single video, so I hope you get over it pretty quickly. You know the routine. Watch for your sun, moon, and rising, especially if all three are different. And then if you want to, you can even watch for your significant others, okay? And make ourselves more aware as we go along. All right, also please invite your spirit guides, whatever you want to call them, your angels. Tarot Illumination has specific angels here, very, very supportive, very, very lucky, including interns. So there you go. So bring in your own, and let's make this a team effort, all right? You'll see what happens in just a moment. Here we go. Cards are shuffled. Bless the cards. Bless the deck. Bless you, dear viewer. All right, here we go. All right, over here is core heart energy. This would be you. The heart needs what it needs, wants what it wants, and it's up to you, dear Pisces, to listen. Listen very, very carefully, and love thyself, nurture thyself. If you're seriously out of sync with your own heart energy, that's a problem, and that can tip up and literally make life a struggle, much more of a struggle than it has to be. It can, if it's extremely divergent, then it can be a struggle to get back into heart energy. And that's what we're hoping to do here at Tarot Illumination, is get you back into the heart center. Okay? Over here is legacy. This could be anything. What are you bringing in with you? Pretend you just arrived for a meeting or an interview. What's in your pocket? What's in your briefcase? What's in your resume? Let's have a look. Over here, the energy of the ever-present now. This is like click, click, click. Be present, be now, be grounded, be conscious, be present, be here. A lot of people don't like that. They'd much rather dwell on the comforts of the status quo and what's already built into a momentum, like our habits, our routines, our life as we know it already. And we use that as a template for going forward into what we call the future, even though it's all happening right now. So, again, this can be difficult energy for a lot of people to handle. Maybe you're totally in the zone. Maybe you're super cool. I don't know. Over here, because it's in the present, it is in the now, where you can activate your evolution through the healing power of your decisions, okay? And doing that in a way that nurtures you. Love thyself. Love thyself. So how do you do that effectively? How do you actually put this into action, okay? Love is as love does. In so doing, loving thyself. And in so doing, creating consequences, outcomes, by choice, by conscious evolution. Okay? Otherwise, if you're outsourcing all your happiness, if you're outsourcing your evolution to, let's say, careers, ambitions, excitement, hedonism, depression, and blaming anything and all of it on the out there, thinking, oh, I have to have this, I have to have that, I don't want this, I don't need that, and it's all out there, then this would seem more like fate, okay? It would be just like, oh, well, that's what happened. It doesn't have to be that way. What happens, let's say you're in the zone. How does that look over here? Let's say you're totally present, deeply conscious, highly evolved, all that really super stuff, to the point where you hardly ever need to visit Tarot Illumination. But you are here because there might be doubts. What happens if you slip up? If you're having a really rough day, very challenged to stay present in the now and own your being, own your heart, own your consciousness. What does that look like when we're failing, when we're slipping? Over here, where does this take us in terms of the next beat of the heart? I hope you can see this as a heart shape here. I'm trying to be symbolic. And this would be the pulse at the very, very core. Each heartbeat is nurtured by the heartbeat before it, okay? That's just how it is, biological fact. And it's helpful if we get used to that and factor that into our lives, our decision making. Love thyself, because that's what's the best for the whole planet, including your loved ones, most especially. Over here, circumstantial energy, we're going to start now. Here we go. The star. So Pisces, in many ways, I feel this is very much to do with the big planetary grand trines that are out there right now. I feel that this is kind of luxurious, and it gives you kind of a break. You get a chance to enjoy like big wave surfing in a way that works for you, where you can almost, it's like, enjoy the goodness of what it's like to be an evolved being, an evolved spirit, and just float on the joy of what it's like to be, let's say, a joyful experience. I'm just using the analogy of surfing because it's very, very close to how life works in terms of the planets and the movements and the currents and the riptides and the undertows. Right now, with all of this stuff, all of this, the Gemini energy and the Pisces energy, very beautiful in their own way. Gemini loves to have fun and be happy. On the other hand, just below the surface, we got some very serious riptides here, serious undertows. Okay, so you have to be very careful. All I'm suggesting is that it's okay for you to enjoy the moment and be very happy and understand that you are divinely guided, you are divinely protected in all of this, even though you might not know it, even though you might be having a really rough time. Okay, that's how I feel this. All right, let's have a look at the core heart energy. Let's get started. Okay. We have the Devil card here. So this is an indication that to me, it feels like your heart is feeling restricted in ways that it doesn't want to be. Almost like, it's almost like you've done so much to get to be who you are and where you are right now in June 2018. Big shifts have happened. Big shifts are still happening. We've got the huge ingress of Uranus into Taurus right now, and it's under heavy, heavy attack from Mars and Aquarius right now, and that's for all of us. Okay, Neptune is sitting there right at the peak of expression at 15 degrees, and there are moments where it's going to be heavily challenged. This might relate to the Gemini Pisces squares early on in the month, where you might be feeling really, really tied in, almost like shackled, literally like shackled to the lowest frequencies that exist in your life, in your world. And your heart would know that and recognize that as deep discomfort, things like buried anger, resentment, confusion, blame, bitterness, grief, pretty much every form of extreme negative energy that you can imagine. And then, like, if, let's say, the unevolved part of you, Pisces, understands that and says, oh my gosh, I feel like doo-doo right now. And that's all. You can also blame that on the planets too, because generally, if you think about it, Gemini is the square season, the conflicted part of the season for Pisces anyway. So what might be happening is you might become acutely aware of anything and everything that is highly restrictive to you in the heart, like being strangled, like your heart is being heavily deprived of the nutrients that it needs and wants and craves and desires, but from a positive angle, because you might be getting exposed to anything and everything that's making things very stressful for you. So this is, to me, this is a very loud wake-up call, like, for you, Pisces, to listen very, very closely to what your heart is saying. Understand that this is all of your own doing. Okay, we're here ultimately because this is how things are. Everything is exactly as it should be because it can't be any other way. And if you want to, you can seriously blame this on the fates if you want to, because that's probably about the only way you can handle this right now, because it's quite extreme. That's what it feels like here to me. So what are you bringing in with you? Oh, Queen of Wands. So forget the gender. We're just doing broad spiritual perspectives here. With the Queen of Wands, my feeling is that you're coming in quite elevated, feeling like you've done a pretty good job. Like through May, for example, that was very harmonious energy for a lot of Pisceans. And yeah, we all are going through this massive shift, this massive change, Uranus into Taurus and all of that stuff. We've talked about it. And we've got the big fat water trine out there. So in general, like if you just walked into a meeting like you were here right now in a private reading or something, or like we were just hanging out at a coffee shop, everything would be just peachy, just wonderful and glowing and radiant. And you would be doing everything you can, not just can, but you would literally be glowing and radiant as your own best, most inspirational self. And that's very good. And this is very courageous. The Queen of Wands energy here, to me, displays the energy of high degrees of mastery that it takes a lot of work to get there and be there. So you must have done a lot of work on yourself already, Pisces. But you might not be aware of what's going on deep at the heart level. So to me, this is a serious problem here, to have these contradictions of energy. Okay, so it might indicate that in some ways you might be blissfully unaware of how incredibly challenging these conditions may be throughout the month. Okay, whatever they might be, however that translates into your life. Let's have a look at the now. Okay, coming back down to earth again with the little Three of Pentacles here, my feeling is that, I mean, you wouldn't be here at Tarot Lumination. You wouldn't be watching these videos, looking into, exploring all these esoteric energies and trying to get love and healing, trying to bring the healing power of love into your life, unless you felt the need for it. So I'm feeling the heart is calling out very, very loudly. I need to be released from all the things that cause the suffering. I mean, for you, Pisces, almost more than anyone else, it's so easy to get hooked on things like that provide relief from so much pressure, because you're so sensitive that you're probably the first person who's going to run for a bong or the alcohol or the medications or whatever. Some of you don't, but a lot of Pisceans, it's very easy for Piscean Neptune energy to be seduced by self-undoing practices, habits, attitudes, ways of being that are ultimately not serving you. And then you go deeper and deeper and deeper into it, thinking, oh, I've got it. I've got no problem here. I only take 3 cups of espresso per day. I've got this down. It's not a problem. And I can handle all the caffeine. It's no big deal. I'm in charge. I got the boss of things. I do all my meditation. I'm doing my healing things, and I'm cool. I've got everything together. And I have to have my I have a couple of smokes in the evening, and that's cool. And then I have my extra beverages, all with very, beautiful packaging and the labeling and everything that says that this is really, really good for you. And I'm doing it perfectly. And I do my yoga. Thank you very much. But can you see the contradictions here? So my feeling here is that this is like a reality check. Like you, Pisces, are here like, okay, well, I admit it. I do need support. I do need to be with people who understand me, and I need to be with people that I understand. And so I thought I'd spend some time here at Tarot Lumination. I hope you don't mind. And that's okay. It's good to be here for you, Pisces, to hang out like this, because we're all a work in progress, and it does require a team effort, like creating your new works, creating your new ways of being, entering this whole new world of being that is starting here, that started officially on May the 15th. But we're just going through the gateway period right now, and that's going to take months and months and months just to cross the gangplank. Okay, so you're in it, you're in the thick of it with the rest of us. And we're doing our best to understand you, and you're doing your best to make the best of yourself and hoping that everyone else understands you and gets you too. And that's good enough, okay? So this looks like a good, honest reality check here as we get closer and closer and go through the story more. So how are you conducting yourself with the healing power of your decisions? Let's have a look here. Okay, well, now this is starting to make sense to me a little bit more as your reader. This is like coming down out of the clouds and admitting, like, actually, I do have issues. I do have some very serious issues. In fact, sometimes I don't even know if I can cope. I'm doing everything I can. In some ways, I feel like everything's coming at me. As soon as I figured out one problem and I've risen above it, another one surfaces that's even more complicated. Oh no, oh no, oh no. And I'm expected to make healthy, self-loving decisions in that condition, in those circumstances. What the bleep? How am I supposed to do that? This is a problem. Well, at Tarot Illumination, I'm saying, finally, let's admit it. We all have problems. In other words, we can't carry ourselves around as though everything is magnificent, wonderful all the time, when deep down there are some seriously binding issues that are literally like keeping you strapped into an evolutionary stagnant tide pool. So how are we going to make decisions that actually work for you in such a way that you can turn this energy around? Well, the first step is that you're here, you're realizing these things, you're figuring it out, and you're doing something about it. So that's very, very good. So how are we going to do that? Okay, let's get down to basics. It looks to me, we're not going to turn this into a love and relationship reading. There is a whole other playlist just for love and relationship. To me, it looks like it's very, very important to understand what it feels like to feel bad and then acknowledge that. In other words, if there are deeply, deeply buried, painful issues and suffering inside of you that anyone else would recognize as grief, sorrow, deep depression and misery from loss, loss of self-respect, loss of love from others, loss of love that you shared with others that is not reciprocated, perhaps a particular individual, a place, a thing, a pet, a loved one, whoever or whatever that is. It's so important to acknowledge that and let that come through and allow things to be revealed in order to be healed. You've got to reveal it to heal it. So my feeling here is that there's a lot of attempts by you to keep everything bottled up and rosy and just working just fine. And as we get closer and closer and more intimate here in the reading, all the facade is falling away, and we're realizing there's some serious issues going on below the surface, and you're really feeling it, and it's very painful for you, and it's time to understand that. There's no point in self-medicating your way out of this. There's no point in maintaining a facade, thinking that you can just paint it all over and fudge it a little bit here and say, well, everyone else has got problems too, and I've got mine. No, that's not going to work. The heart is saying very, very loudly, I need to be released from these bindings, whatever they are. And the bindings are probably to do with being held hostage to deeply emotional and traumatic events and circumstances from the past, which need to be acknowledged right now, no matter how challenging that is. If you see it as a personal affront, where it's like below you, it's very undignified, all your best efforts are suddenly exposed for being half-wasted, and now you have to face the truth, face the reality that there are some serious issues that need to be addressed and healed here. So it's time to reveal it, to heal it. It's official. So let's say we just admit it, okay? Let's just say this was a meeting and you, Pisces, are hanging out with Tarot Lumination and you realize, okay, I admit it. And you have a complete gushing breakdown. And it's tragic. And I say, okay, well, hand over all your bottles and pills and write a list of all the things that you do that are self-destructive. Let's have a look. Let's figure this out. Because once you define that, you have a list of all the obstacles that obscure the happiness and joy that is yours. And here's one thing that I've discovered personally is that once you can identify and name what these problems are, put it into words, write it in a journal, write a list, define it, talk to yourself, self-talk therapy, lock yourself away in a room quietly, talk to yourself, like questioning and answering. It can be very therapeutic sometimes, and you might be shocked at what you discover. And then you can do that systematically and create a list of anything and everything that constitutes deep pain, deep grief, deep sorrow that is being buried or self-medicated away in order to act as if everything's wonderful. And so once you do that, it can be extremely joyful and healing when you realize, oh my God, I've been burying this stuff for so long. Finally, we get to reveal it, to heal it. That alone, just the process of revealing for the healing, can trigger tremendous joy. And guess what happens then? Joy triggers joy. Love breeds love. And this becomes a formula like, oh my gosh, this is a trick. This is so cool. You can actually generate and create happiness by identifying and labeling, naming everything and anything that goes against this happiness and joy, and then taking full ownership for it. No one else is going to do this for you. No one else can do this for you. So it's up to you, Pisces, to do that. Listen very, very carefully to the message that your heart is deeply, deeply strangled, suffocating, really starved of the nutrients that it needs. And it's simply because of the binding to whatever ails you, and keeping the binding in place by trying to self-medicate and smother and shove it aside and pretend it doesn't exist. No matter how hard you try, it's going to come to the surface anyway. So let's face it. Now, what happens if you cave in and you think there's no way, I'm never going to figure this out. I don't care how many tarot illumination reports I watch. I'm doomed. I already know it. I just admit it. I'm a constant long-term self-medicator, and that's just how it is. Just like hundreds of millions of other people. I just heard a report the other day that they did a survey for all these like medical cannabis places, and they asked some people like, okay, like random interviews. So what are you actually going to do with this stuff? And 80% of them said, oh, this is really just for hanging out, you know. 20% said it's actual medical. I can't remember. Don't quote me on any of this, but I thought it's kind of funny. And it feels to me like, so it's a big charade, like fooling ourselves. Like really all we're trying to do is hide and bury and distract anything and everything that triggers sorrow, sadness, and grief, and cover it up with artificial joy, artificial happiness. You know, we can do that with things like excitement and thrills and distractions, consumer happiness, retail therapy, drugs, whatever it is, alcohol. Let's have a look. What happens if you really, really mess up? Okay, you essentially impoverish yourself. It's that simple. And that could be done in the company of significant others, and that just makes it worse. In other words, be very aware of the company that you keep. If you're surrounded by misery, have a look in the mirror. If you're surrounded by joy, have a look in the mirror. Okay, so what happens if you're having a good day and you realize, oh my gosh, this is freaky weird what Tarot Illumination is talking about. I was never prepared to admit that before. I am deeply challenged, I admit it, and I do struggle with all of this, I admit it. But now I'm realizing that once I accept my own pain, grief, and sorrow and my suffering, and I bring it to the surface for healing, it can be very, very, very healing in itself, just the revealing for the healing. And so what happens is you expose all the patterns and all the bindings and all the links. It's like you get to actually have a close-on look at all the bindings and the knots and habits and tricks, deeply, very elaborate tricks of self-undoing that lead to self-impoverishment. And you think, oh my gosh, why didn't anybody tell me this before? It's like removing the obstacles to joy and happiness. Yeah, you got to reveal it to heal it. And then you systematically heal anything and everything that keeps you in deep binding to the pain and the sorrow. Excuse my voice. I've been doing a lot of readings. Anyway, let's keep going. Let's have a look here. Where does this take us? Okay. With the Emperor here, in terms of like prospects and momentum, my feeling is that it's time to take absolute charge of this, and no squirming, no fudging, no excuses, nothing. It's almost like the Emperor has absolutely no shame about being utterly ruthless about doing whatever has to be done to do what has to be done. And there's no apologies here. It's just pure, raw, absolute power. And it's just like, well, this is just how it has to be. So my feeling here is that this is a very, very loud message that Spirit is telling you to take this stuff very, very seriously, Pisces, because in some ways, Pisces, you are the world's expert at self-undoing and creating self-impoverishment. And it doesn't have to be that way. What I think can happen here is you have the chance to figure out, at least start, at least get a glimpse, at least get a start here in June, that you're here, you are divinely guided to be here just for this little reading, and you can take this out there into the world with you and realize, oh my gosh, I really do have to take charge here. In fact, I'm going to be utterly ruthless. I'm going to be uh, a complete uh, monster when it comes to uh, systematically undoing all these chains. In other words, The Devil Meets the Emperor, the movie, bam, Clash of the Titans, blam, blam, blam. And you, dear Pisces, in your evolved self, which is going to take work, continuous work, work in progress, you win, okay? You win. Thank you very much. I'm not going to say anything more, otherwise I'll spoil it. All the best to you, Pisces. Hope I didn't scare you or touch any nerves. You know the drill. Cross watching, sun, moon, and rising, all that stuff. Good luck. All the best. Hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye. Have a super June. Cancer energy will be coming up, by the way, at the end of the month, and things might be a lot smoother and softer and gooier and more fun for you. But for right now, it's full on. It's almost full on warfare. Clash of the Titans. You can handle it, all right? Bye-bye. Bye-bye.